First Contact's facade. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the curved window of humanity's first interstellar embassy, watching ships of the Galactic Assembly drift, like luminous fish, through the dark space above New Geneva Station. Their sleek forms rippled with what appeared to be living metal, a technology that made Earth's best vessels look like crude industrial-age constructs in comparison. That was exactly how she wanted them to appear. "They're ready for us, Director," her assistant Marcus said quietly from behind her. "The Assembly's High Council will see Earth's delegation now." Sarah smoothed down her deliberately simple gray suit, devoid of the elaborate technological enhancements that adorned the Assembly's species representatives. The quantum processor woven into its fabric remained undetectable, as did the swarm of microscopic AI nodes swimming through her bloodstream. To the Assembly's most advanced scanners, she would register as completely ordinary, primitive even. "Remember," she told her small team as they walked toward the council chambers, "we're the humble newcomers here. Wide-eyed, earnest, and just smart enough to achieve basic faster-than-light travel. Nothing more." The council chamber itself was a masterpiece of bioengineering. Living crystal walls pulsed with neural networks, and floating platforms held representatives of over 30 spacefaring species. Sarah noted how each race displayed their technological achievements prominently, from photonic implants to gravitic manipulators. Their arrogance would work in humanity's favor. High Speaker Ixel, a being of pure energy contained within an ornic mechanical shell, descended to address them. Its voice resonated with carefully modulated frequencies of assumed superiority. "Welcome, children of Earth," it said. "We have reviewed your petition for membership in the Galactic Assembly. While your achievement of faster-than-light travel is noteworthy, we have some concerns about your species' overall development level." Sarah bowed her head in practiced humility. "We understand, High Speaker. Earth comes before the Assembly not as equals, but as students eager to learn." A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Several representatives made gestures their species used to denote condescension or pity. Sarah catalogued each one, the quantum AI in her bloodstream analyzing and storing every detail. "Your honesty is refreshing," Ixel continued. "However, our scans indicate your technology is concerningly unrefined. Your ships lack basic neural interfaces. Your weapon systems are crude projectiles and chemical explosives. You appear to have no grasp of quantum computing or artificial intelligence beyond the most elementary level." "We make do with what we have," Sarah replied carefully. "Earth has focused our limited resources on exploration rather than technological advancement in other areas." Another wave of patronizing amusement. A representative of the silicon-based crystalline collective actually chimed in harmonic frequencies that translated roughly to laughter. "Perhaps," Ixel suggested, "we should establish Earth as a protected development zone. This would allow us to guide your species toward proper technological advancement, while protecting you from those who might take advantage of your current limitations." Sarah felt a flash of satisfaction. This was exactly the response they had predicted. The quantum AI nodes in her bloodstream registered a 99.97% match with their projected outcome scenarios. "Earth would be honored by such generous protection," she said, bowing deeper. "We have much to learn from the Assembly's wisdom." As the Council began discussing the details of Earth's protected status, Sarah sent a subtle neural command through her quantum network. Across human space, hidden quantum processors began their work, analyzing every scrap of data about Assembly technology and society. Their arrogance had blinded them to humanity's true capabilities, just as planned. They saw humans as primitive because we showed them what they expected to see: a young species stumbling into the galactic community with crude technology and wide-eyed wonder. They never thought to look deeper, to question why a race capable of faster-than-light travel would lack other advanced technologies. It simply fed into their preconceptions too perfectly. The truth was far different. While other species had focused on showy displays of technological advancement, humanity had turned inward, developing quantum computing and artificial intelligence to levels the assembly couldn't comprehend. Every human in the delegation carried within them processing power that exceeded the assembly's most advanced systems. But they would never know that, not until it was far too late. "We accept your generous terms," Sarah said as the council concluded their deliberations. "Earth looks forward to learning from the assembly's guidance." As they left the chamber, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The assembly thought they were taking humanity under their wing. In reality, they had just invited an entire civilization of quantum-enhanced intelligences into their midst. Every patronizing gesture, every dismissive comment, every scrap of data they shared would be analyzed and used to understand them completely. Let them think humans were primitive. Let them believe we needed their protection. Sometimes the best place to hide was in plain sight, wearing the mask of ignorance they expected to see. Humanity would learn, oh yes, but not the lessons they thought they were teaching. The game had begun, and the assembly had no idea they were already playing. The patronizing piece. 6 months into Earth's protected status, Admiral James Cooper watched from the observation deck of New Geneva Station as an assembly advisory fleet took up position around Earth's solar system. Their ships sparkled with biometallic brilliance, a stark contrast to the deliberately basic design of human vessels patrolling nearby. The assembly called it protection. Cooper called it surveillance. "Status report," he subvocalized, the quantum AI nodes in his system instantly connecting him to Earth's hidden network. Analysis of assembly communication patterns is at 87% completion. The AI responded directly into his mind. Their encryption methods are predictable. They rely too heavily on photonic quantum entanglement, never suspecting we mastered quantum AI centuries ago. The Admiral's lips curved slightly. The assembly's protection had given humanity unprecedented access to their technology and systems. Every patronizing inspection, every educational visit, every demonstration of their supposedly superior technology provided more data for Earth's quantum network to analyze. "Sir," Lieutenant Rivera approached, her simple uniform hiding technology that would make the assembly's best systems look primitive. "The Crystalline Collective's ambassador requests another cultural exchange session. They're particularly interested in examining our quaint computer systems." Cooper nodded. "By all means, let's show them our outdated binary processors. Make sure they get a good look at how we struggle with basic quantum mechanics." The deception had become almost routine. Humanity presented carefully crafted technological fumbling, while their true capabilities remained hidden in plain sight. The quantum AI network spread through human space had already mapped most of the assembly's weaknesses, their blind spots, their technological dependencies. In the station's diplomatic quarter, Dr. Chen was entertaining a group of assembly scientists. They watched with barely concealed amusement as she demonstrated Earth's most advanced AI system, a deliberately clunky interface that was centuries behind what humans actually used. "Fascinating," said Chief Researcher Zix, their crystalline form vibrating with patronizing interest. "Have you considered implementing neural photonic interfaces? Even our youngest species mastered those millennia ago." "We're still working to understand the basic principles," Sarah replied with practiced humility. Meanwhile, the quantum AI within her was analyzing every fluctuation in Zix's crystalline structure, learning more about their species' fundamental nature than they ever intended to reveal. "Perhaps," Zix suggested, "we could provide some guidance in this area. Under strict supervision, of course. We wouldn't want you to hurt yourselves with advanced technology." Sarah's quantum network registered the subtle markers of superiority in Zix's harmonic patterns. Every interaction like this added to humanity's understanding of assembly psychology. Their need to feel superior, their blind confidence in their technological supremacy, their inability to conceive that a primitive species might be hiding something from them. In orbit, a human transport ship appeared to struggle with a simple docking procedure. The assembly vessels moved to assist, their crews never noticing the quantum scanners mapping their every system. Every accident was calculated, every request for help an opportunity to study their responses. Remarkable, Admiral Cooper's AI reported. Their ship's neural networks are completely dependent on photonic quantum states. A simple phase shift in the right frequency would log it, Cooper subvocalized. Add it to the contingency database. The assembly thought they were teaching humanity, guiding them toward proper technological development. In reality, every lesson they gave revealed more of their vulnerabilities. Every system they demonstrated showed humanity exactly how to counter it. Sir, Lieutenant Rivera returned. The crystalline ambassador is requesting permission to install monitoring systems in our main computer cores. For our protection, they say. Cooper smiled. By all means, show them the cores we want them to see. The real cores, quantum processors that made the assembly's best computers look like ancient calculators, remained hidden beneath layers of technological camouflage. The assembly's monitoring systems would see exactly what humanity wanted them to see, a struggling young species grateful for their guidance. In her office, Dr. Chen reviewed the latest analysis from Earth's quantum network. The assembly's technological framework was becoming clearer with each passing day. Their reliance on photonic quantum systems, their standardized neural interfaces, their shared technological evolution, all of it created common vulnerabilities they never thought to protect against. They think they're watching us, she mused to herself. They never consider that we might be watching them. The assembly's protection had given humanity exactly what they needed: unlimited access to study their supposed protectors. Every patronizing interaction, every dismissive analysis, every helpful intervention just gave humans more insight into the assembly's true nature. Let them think they were the teachers. Let them believe their technology was superior. The best way to learn someone's weaknesses was to let them think they were showing you their strength. The quantum AIs continued their silent work, gathering data, analyzing patterns, finding vulnerabilities, and the assembly continued their patronizing protection, never suspecting that their primitive charges were anything more than what they appeared to be. The game continued, and humanity was playing it perfectly. The question wasn't if they would reveal their true capabilities, but when. And when that moment came, the assembly would learn too late that their protected species had outgrown them long ago. Pirates and pretense. The emergency alert echoed through the assembly's grand chambers as reports of another attack flooded in. A trading outpost in the Carina sector had gone dark. The third such incident this month. On the primary display, red markers showed a disturbing pattern of raids spreading across assembly space. Dr. Sarah Chen stood quietly in the back of the chamber, watching the assembly representatives argue among themselves. Her quantum AI network was recording everything, analyzing their responses to crisis in real time. These attacks show sophistication beyond normal piracy, High Speaker Ixel declared, its energy form flickering with agitation. The raiders somehow bypass our most advanced detection systems. They strike without warning and vanish without trace. Perhaps, Sarah spoke up, carefully modulating her voice to sound hesitant. Earth could help patrol some of the outer trade routes. Our ships may be primitive, but we have many of them. The chamber fell silent as the assembly representatives turned to look at her. She could read the mix of amusement and condescension in their reactions. The quantum AI in her bloodstream cataloged every subtle tell. "My dear Dr. Chen," Ambassador Zix chimed, crystalline form vibrating with barely concealed derision. "While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, your vessels would be helpless against raiders who can evade even our advanced detection systems." "Of course," Sarah bowed slightly. "I merely wish to offer what assistance we could." Meanwhile, in the supposedly primitive control center of New Geneva Station, Admiral Cooper was reviewing data that would have shocked the assembly representatives. Earth's quantum AI network had been tracking the raiders since their first attack, analyzing patterns that the assembly's rigid thinking couldn't perceive. The raiders are using a variant of assembly photonic cloaking technology, his AI reported, but they've modified it in ways the assembly never considered. Fascinating. Cooper studied the real-time quantum analysis. Can we track them? Already done, sir. Their modified cloaking creates subtle distortions in quantum space that our systems can detect. We've mapped their likely bases of operation. Would you like the coordinates? The Admiral smiled grimly. The Raiders thought they were invisible, just as the Assembly thought humans were primitive. Both would learn the truth eventually. Back in the Assembly chamber, the crisis meeting continued. Reports of new attacks were coming in faster now. The Raiders were growing bolder, striking closer to core Assembly worlds. We must increase patrols, one representative insisted. Deploy our most advanced detection grids. The cost would be astronomical, another argued. And if they can already evade our best sensors. Sarah watched the debate with careful attention. The quantum AI network was building a psychological profile of how the Assembly handled crisis. Their rigid hierarchical thinking, their over-reliance on established technology, their inability to adapt quickly to new threats. All of it was valuable data. In her secured office later, she reviewed the latest analysis with Admiral Cooper via quantum link. The Raiders' pattern was becoming clear, though the Assembly couldn't see it. They're not just pirates, Cooper said. Their attack pattern is too precise. They're testing the Assembly's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Sarah nodded. The Assembly is too focused on their traditional responses to see it. They keep trying the same solutions, expecting different results. Should we intervene? Cooper asked. We could stop these raids within days if we revealed our true capabilities. Not yet, Sarah replied. We need to see how this plays out. The Assembly's response to this crisis tells us more about their vulnerabilities than any amount of scanning could. The quantum network was already gaming out possible scenarios. The Raiders' activities were accelerating something that had been building in Assembly space for years. Fractures in their carefully maintained hierarchy of species. In orbit around Earth, the Assembly's advisory fleet continued their patrols, never suspecting that the primitive humans they were protecting could track every Raider ship's movement through their supposedly perfect cloaking systems. How shall we proceed? Cooper asked. Sarah considered for a moment. We maintain our role as the helpful primitives, offer assistance they'll dismiss, ask questions they think naive. Let them focus on protecting us while we watch how they fail to protect themselves. And if the Raiders become a genuine threat, then we'll have to decide which mask to drop first, our facade of weakness or the Raiders' illusion of invisibility. The quantum AIs continued their analysis, building an ever more detailed picture of both the Assembly's weaknesses and the Raiders' capabilities. Humanity's hidden strength grew with every passing day, while their apparent primitiveness kept them safe from suspicion. The game had entered a new phase. The Raiders thought they were invisible. The Assembly thought they were invincible. And humanity waited quietly, watching both, knowing that soon they would have to decide when and how to shatter both illusions. In the darkness of space, Assembly ships patrolled with their advanced sensors, never detecting the quantum ghosts that watched their every move. The Raiders struck with their stolen cloaking technology, never realizing they were being tracked by something far more sophisticated. And humanity played its role perfectly, the humble, primitive species, grateful for protection, while their true power remained hidden in the quantum shadows, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The revelation. The Assembly's capital world of Centaurus Prime blazed with artificial light as thousands of ships moved in complex patterns through its orbit. Emergency beacons flashed everywhere. The Raiders had struck their boldest target yet, a major shipyard just 2 systems away from the capital itself. Admiral Cooper stood in his command center on New Geneva Station, watching real-time quantum data stream through his consciousness. The Raiders had changed their pattern. This wasn't just another test of Assembly defenses. They're preparing for something big, his AI reported. Analysis suggests a 94% probability of a major strike within the next 48 hours. Target. The capital itself. They've been mapping defensive patterns, response times, blind spots. This was never about piracy. They're planning an assassination. In the Assembly's grand chamber, Dr. Chen watched the panic spread among the representatives. Their carefully maintained facade of superiority was cracking. The quantum AI in her system recorded every subtle sign of fear, every micro-expression of desperation. The raiders must have support from within the Assembly, High Speaker Ixel declared, its energy form fluctuating wildly. How else could they know our patrol patterns, our response protocols? The chamber erupted in accusations and counter-accusations. Species that had coexisted peacefully for millennia now viewed each other with suspicion. The Assembly's unity was unraveling exactly as humanity's quantum simulations had predicted. Sarah's quantum link buzzed with an urgent message from Cooper. We have to make a decision. The raiders will strike the capital within 2 days. If they succeed in destabilizing the Assembly, the resulting chaos could throw this entire sector of the galaxy into war. Sarah finished. Can we stop them without revealing ourselves? Negative. They're using modified assembly tech. We'd have to demonstrate capabilities they don't know we have. Sarah watched the Assembly representatives continue their increasingly heated arguments. Everything humanity had worked for, their careful infiltration, their gathering of intelligence, their long-term plans for reforming the Assembly from within. It all hung in the balance. How long until they reach firing position? She subvocalized. 17 hours, Cooper replied. They'd hidden antimatter weapons in what appeared to be debris fields around the capital. One detonation would destabilize the planetary defense grid. The second would decapitate the Assembly leadership. Sarah finished. The quantum AI was already showing her the projected casualties. Billions of lives across multiple species. The Assembly's emergency session continued, oblivious to the true scope of the threat. Their ships patrolled in standard patterns, their sensors searched for conventional attacks, and their leaders argued about whose fault it was. We can't let this happen, Cooper said quietly, even if it means showing our hand early. Sarah closed her eyes, accessing the quantum network's most recent simulations. The Assembly's response to learning humanity's true capabilities would be violent, paranoid. But the alternative was worse. Agreed, she said finally. Implement Operation Thunderbolt, but let's give them one last chance to see the truth for themselves. She stepped forward in the chamber, pitching her voice to Carrie. Honored representatives, if I may, our primitive sensors have detected unusual quantum fluctuations in the debris fields around the capital. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence had a different quality. Ambassador Zix's crystalline form vibrated with barely suppressed laughter. My dear Dr. Chen, your species barely understands basic quantum mechanics. How could your sensors possibly? They're right. A new voice cut in. A junior technician burst into the chamber, their display showing readings from the Assembly's own quantum scanners. Something is hidden in the debris fields, but our sensors can't get a clear reading. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the capital. The raiders had begun their attack early. On every display, ships appeared from nowhere, their modified cloaking systems giving them nearly perfect invisibility to Assembly sensors. Sarah straightened up, dropping her carefully maintained pose of humility. Her quantum AI network connected with Cooper's command center, and across Assembly space, humanity's true power began to emerge. Admiral, she said clearly, her voice carrying through the quantum link. You have permission to proceed. In orbit around the capital, supposedly primitive human ships suddenly transformed. Hidden quantum systems activated. Advanced weapons platforms emerged from dimensional camouflage, and targeting systems far beyond Assembly understanding locked onto the raiders' positions. The Assembly representatives stared in shock as their displays showed the truth. Every human ship, every facility, every diplomat had been hiding capabilities that made their most advanced technology look primitive in comparison. We apologize for the deception, Sarah announced to the stunned chamber. But right now, you need to trust us, because those antimatter weapons in your debris field, they're about to detonate in 15 minutes, and we're the only ones who can stop them. The game of pretense was over. Now humanity had to prove that their hidden strength could be used for more than just deception. The next few minutes would determine not just the fate of the assembly, but the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. A new understanding. The assembly's grand chamber was eerily quiet as they watched humanity's true power unfold on the tactical displays. Human ships, their primitive facades stripped away, moved with impossible precision through the debris fields around the capital. Their quantum technology, hidden for so long, now operated openly, effortlessly neutralizing the raiders' antimatter weapons. Dr. Sarah Chen stood calmly in the center of the chamber, her quantum AI network coordinating with Admiral Cooper's fleet. Around her, assembly representatives watched in stunned silence as their fundamental understanding of humanity crumbled. Target neutralized, Cooper's voice echoed through the quantum link. Raider fleet contained. No casualties. On the displays, the last of the raider ships hung motionless, caught in quantum stasis fields that the assembly had thought impossible to create. The entire battle had lasted less than 5 minutes. High-speaker Ixel's energy form pulsed with a mixture of fear and awe. All this time, you were capable of this. You had quantum technology beyond our understanding, and you hid it from us. Yes, Sarah replied simply. We had to know. Know what? Ambassador Zix demanded, their crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Who you really were, not just your technology or your capabilities, but your character. Would you help those you thought weaker than you? Would you protect those you believed primitive? Or would you exploit them? The chamber erupted in protests and accusations, but Sarah continued, her voice carrying over the chaos. Every patronizing gesture, every dismissive comment, every offer of protection showed us exactly who you were. Your technology was impressive, but your society was built on arrogance and hierarchy. Admiral Cooper's hologram appeared in the chamber. The raiders proved our point. Your rigid thinking, your assumption of technological superiority, your inability to adapt, they nearly led to your destruction. If we hadn't been here, if you hadn't been here, Ixel interrupted, the raiders would never have gotten so close. You watched them plan this attack. You let them threaten us. No, Sarah corrected. We monitored them while developing a full understanding of their capabilities and intentions. Had they moved to strike earlier, we would have stopped them earlier. We needed to see how the assembly would respond to a crisis it couldn't solve with technological superiority alone. On the displays, human ships were now openly using their quantum systems to repair the damage from the brief battle. Assembly sensors tried and failed to understand how they operated. Your entire species deceived us, Zix accused. Every interaction, every exchange, was genuine, Sarah insisted. We simply didn't show you all of our capabilities. Tell me, would you have treated us differently if you'd known the truth from the beginning? Would you have bothered to know us as people, or would you have seen us only as a potential threat? The silence that followed was answer enough. Humanity developed our technology in secret because Earth's history taught us an important lesson. Cooper explained, when you reveal strength, you invite challenge. But when you appear weak, you learn who your true friends are. Sarah stepped forward, addressing the assembly directly. We could have revealed ourselves at any time. We could have demanded power, forced concessions, threatened you with technology you couldn't counter. Instead, we waited, watched, learned. And now, Ixel asked quietly, now that we know the truth, now we offered genuine partnership. Sarah's voice softened. No more pretense, no more hierarchy of species. The assembly needs to change, to move beyond its assumptions of superiority and its rigid rankings of civilizations. You'll help us. The question came from one of the younger species representatives, their voice hopeful. Yes, Cooper confirmed. The raiders aren't gone. There will be more threats, more challenges, but we'll face them together, as equals. Humanity's quantum technology, freely shared, could transform every society in the assembly. Why would you share it? Zix demanded. After we treated you as primitives. Sarah smiled. Because that's the final test, not how you treat equals or superiors, but what you do when you realize you were wrong. The assembly can continue as it is, proud and hierarchical, and ultimately vulnerable, or it can change, grow, become something greater. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence felt different. The quantum AI network detected subtle shifts in posture, changes in energy patterns, the first glimpses of understanding. "We have much to discuss," Ixel said finally. "Much to reconsider." "Yes," Sarah agreed. "And this time, we'll do it as true partners, without pretense or prejudice." Outside the chamber, human ships dropped their camouflage all across assembly space, revealing their true forms. The facade was gone, but something new was beginning. A partnership born of understanding rather than assumption, of respect earned rather than demanded. The game of deception was over. The real work of building a better galaxy together was about to begin. And this time, every species would know exactly who and what their partners were. No masks, no pretense, just the truth of who they chose to be.